one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, roll call, Linda.
Rich Rossway,
Here.
James Randall, Kristen Cambenzi,
Here.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Here.
James Hewitt,
Here.
Glenn Sarka,
Here.
and I am just admitting Jamie into the waiting room from the waiting room right now. So
Okay, so we'll mark him as present. Mark him as arriving at 5:31, just to give him a hard time. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Randall, supported by Mr. Sarka. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Linda?
Rich Rossway,
Yes.
James Randall,
Yes.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Yes.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Yes.
James Hewitt,
Yes.
Glenn Sarka,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on. Comments from the public. These are agenda items only. Linda, do we have anybody?
We do not have anyone in the waiting room for agenda items only at this time.
Okay, we will have one more public comment at the end of the meeting too, and we'll check at that time. Item number 6, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Saunders.
Well, we'll start the superintendent's report today with an athletics update from Alex. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thank you for having me. I know since our last update, probably the information that was shared at that time was accurate for all of a few hours before it was changed again on us. But, you know, it's certainly been a busy fall with getting our sports underway and keeping our seasons rolling so far. But the focus of that last update was establishing our return to activity and return to play guidelines and protocols, and how we were handling COVID-related issues and things like that. And also a major focus of that last update was revising our fall athletics schedules and regular season schedules to reflect all UP competition and keeping our teams regionally focused for those competition schedules here this fall. Since then, practice and competition has started in all of our fall sports. That includes cross country, girls tennis, boys soccer, volleyball, and as of a few weeks ago, back on September 3rd, football as well. And so, you know, it's great to have all of our student athletes out there competing. It's certainly taken a lot of work and from a lot of coaches, volunteers, and staff members to get us to this point. But again, great to have our student athletes out there and engaged in these extracurricular activities. Scheduling for the fall has definitely presented itself with some challenges. Revising our schedules to reflect competition against UP schools only, has been difficult, primarily in the sports of boys soccer and football as well. You know, it's in the case of boys soccer, our overall level of competition's no doubt taken a hit. But at the same time, we have filled those schedules with a similar amount of games and keeping our boys soccer teams at the varsity and JV level competing here this fall. In regards to football, we are working off of a 6-game regular season schedule, and we do have full 6-game schedules at the varsity, JV, and freshman levels as well. And so we had those traditional downstate opponents that have been replaced with Sault Ste. Marie and Calumet. So great to have Calumet back on our schedule and rounding things out that way. But off to a good start. You know, we've hosted events in every sport so far, and I will say just the dedication and commitment that both our student athletes and coaches have shown in adhering to those protocols and guidelines, wearing the face masks, sanitizer, following the MHSAA's sport-specific guidelines has just been outstanding. You can easily tell that not only our student athletes, but their families as well, are willing to do anything and everything that it takes to keep us practicing and competing and hopefully seeing these seasons through to their conclusion. Our pre-screening process as student athletes are coming in for both practice and competition has gone extremely well. And we've actually enlisted the help of the NMU nursing program in helping us administer these pre-screening procedures. It's a little bit of a burden taken off of our shoulders, and knowing that we've got some trusted help there, and at the same time, it's also proving to be a valuable experience for those nursing students as well. And so, a huge thank you to them. And overall, our experience took a little bit of a change back on September 9th when we saw the addition of the governor's executive order 180, which mandated face coverings during practice and competition for all sports, with the exception of girls tennis and cross country. And so now that has volleyball, both practice and in competition as well, having mandated face coverings. Same can be said for boys soccer and football as well. And so that was a tough change to make. But again, our student athletes and coaches have responded extremely well. There's not that overall sense of negativity or anything like that. It's just a change in the game, a little bit of adversity that we gotta get above, and doing what we need to do to keep our season rolling. And so, in addition to that, there's just been some accommodations that we've also made during our competitions, just to make sure that we're keeping the health and well-being of our student athletes at the forefront. And some examples of that: during a volleyball competition, you have a traditional set break of 3 minutes, whether it's extending that to 5 minutes, allowing our student athletes to step outside, pull the mask down, get a few breaths of fresh air that way. Same out on the soccer field and things like that. So we are making some kind of outside of the sport norms changes that can better accommodate the health and well-being of our student athletes. And knowing that these face coverings, do present some other health-related issues, just wanted to keep everybody safe and healthy. As it relates to spectators, cross country, girls tennis, and boys soccer, a little bit of a different situation with those sports, and with spectators at those venues, keeping them outside, obviously, but a little bit easier to keep folks distanced and with face coverings that way. But pertaining to volleyball and football, with those two sports having specific athletics facilities and things like that, volleyball to this point hasn't had spectators involved at those competitions, but starting with next Monday's match against Gladstone, looking to provide student athletes involved in those competitions with 2 spectator allowances each, which would coincide in parallel with what we've allowed our football student athletes, starting with those competitions that took place last week as well. After seeing the behaviors demonstrated by our football spectators, it's pretty clear that we can do this. And our families just want to be able to come out and support their student athletes. And so, I think everything that's taken place to this point really gives everybody involved the hope and the assurance and the confidence that we can keep things moving in the right direction here and keep everybody safe in the process. Aside from that, transportation to away from school competitions has gone well, whether it be through a MAPS transported trip or one that's been transported by a third party like Checker Bus. Our student athletes are doing their part in that regard as well, and wearing their face coverings on the bus and in transit. To this point, we have been having them get dressed for competition prior to departure, in addition to that pre-screening process that we've been having them go through. So, we're going through the processes as we travel away from school as well. And again, to this point, everything's been going very well, and hopefully we'll see that trend continue. And aside from that, I think knowing that phase 4 could be a change that we may be looking at in regressing here. The majority of our protocols are almost there for if that change is made to phase 4. We've been following just about all of those guidelines as well. So we wouldn't see any changes made to the spectator allowances. You know, we're right there with the 2 spectators per student athlete limit. Where we would see a change would be in the sport of football, and the allowance of a marching band to be included in that, which would be a change that we would be looking at if we did get moved back to phase 4. So certainly a change none of us want, and none of us want to see happen, but one that we would be looking at if we did move back to phase 4. And then lastly, just a postseason competition. As we look to conclude out the fall, we are going to be looking at 2 sports, with volleyball and football being able to move forward with postseason competition, and just the likelihood of them needing to compete against downstate schools, whether that's in our facilities or traveling downstate to those areas. You know, the postseason wouldn't happen until later in the month of October. A lot will happen between now and then, obviously, but something that is on the horizon for those 2 sports. And again, that would just be postseason competition, and not looking at any regular season competition against those downstate schools. That concludes my update. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Alex? Alex, I guess my only, looking down the road, and maybe you haven't had this discussion, as far as those winter sports like hockey, and I think of wrestling, and with such close contact, has there been much discussion about those sports and how that might look?
You know, oddly enough, within the MHSA Representative Council, the topic of winter sports hasn't even been breached yet. And to be honest, we haven't had a lot of internal discussions over the past couple of weeks at all. And it just kind of seems like once Executive Order 180 came through, the conversations have really been limited, and specifically the amount of information shared from the MHSAA. But you know, in terms of my best guess, we do have some hope with middle school basketball proceeding as planned. So you know, I as of right now, I'm planning for our winter sports seasons to proceed as planned and as scheduled. And then kind of making any necessary adjustments, and similar to how we've done the fall, coming back to this group and hopefully laying out a plan for the winter sports seasons, and what things might be looking at across the board there. But certainly some problematic scenarios when you're looking at winter sports. I think the Marquette Wrestling Challenge is going to be a very difficult event to be able to host this year, as well as some others. And we do have a hockey schedule that sees us going downstate quite a bit, as well as some other regular season overnight trips downstate in some sports. So you know, those will all be things to continue to work through as we move forward towards those winter sport first practice dates that are right there in the first week of November.
Okay, well, I really appreciate the update, Alex. That's very thorough. And if there's no other questions from the board, I guess we'll give it back to you then, Bill, with your COVID update.
Sure. Nicely done, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you.
As you guys are aware, starting in October, we're required to have an extended COVID-19 learning plan. I'm just going to go through some of those assurances with the board right now, just to prep us for what this is going to start to look like in October. The Marquette area public schools will make their ISD authorizing body approved extended COVID-19 learning plan accessible through the transparency reporting link located on our district website no later than October 1st, 2020. Marquette area public schools will create and make available on its transparency reporting link located on the district's website a report concerning the progress made in meeting the educational goals contained in its extended COVID-19 learning plan, not later than February 1st, 2021 for goals it's expected to be achieved by the middle of the school year, and not later than the last day of school of 2021 school year for goals expected to be achieved by the end of the school year. That will be measured with benchmark assessments The district will select a benchmark assessment or benchmark assessments that is or are aligned to state standards, administer the approved benchmark assessment or local benchmark assessment or any combination thereof to all pupils in grades K to 8 to measure proficiency in reading and mathematics within the first 9 weeks of the 2021 school year, and again, not later than the last day of the 2021 school year. MAPS currently does this using NWEA. Many districts give NWEA twice a year. We've been giving NWEA 3 times a year. We're actually giving NWEA this week. So students will begin that. We'll take a look at that data as we go, and we'll use those growth projections as our goals as we progress through the school year. We'll give it again in the winter, and then we'll give it again in the spring. If delivering pupil instruction virtually, the district will provide pupils with equitable access to technology and the internet necessary to participate in instruction and expose each pupil to the academic standards that apply for each pupil's grade level or courses in the same scope and sequence as the district PSA had planned for that exposure to occur for in-person instruction. And as we're trying to make that seamless, that's what's happening in our classrooms right now with our teachers and what we're supporting for our virtual students. Market area public schools, in consultation with a local health department, will develop guidelines concerning appropriate methods for delivering pupil instruction for the 2021 school year that are based on local data that are based on key metrics. A determination concerning the method for delivering pupil instruction shall remain at the district PSA board's discretion, which is your discretion. Key metrics that the district PSA will consider shall include at least all of the following: COVID-19 cases or positive COVID-19 tests, hospitalizations due to COVID-19, number of deaths resulting from COVID-19 over a 14-day period, COVID-19 cases for each day for each 1 million individuals, and the percentage of positive COVID-19 tests over a 4-week period. So as you guys are aware, we do have our own district dashboard set up. As we talked about at our August meeting, we would also reference NMU's dashboard that has a lot of this up-to-date data for us. And we are getting that data provided to us once a month by the Marquette County Health Department. So that's a monthly snapshot looking at maybe a dashboard like NMU's with the local. I think it's updated a little bit more frequently than maybe that information that I'll get only once from the local health department. But I'm sure they have their own dashboard up and running that maybe has a little bit more info. And then, of course, we're tracking our own within Marquette area public schools. I missed 2 points there. They also want us to look at health capacity strength and testing, tracing, and containment infrastructure with regard to COVID-19. If the district PSA determines that it is safe to provide in-person instruction to pupils, the district PSA will prioritize providing in-person instruction to pupils in grade K to 5 who are enrolled in the district PSA. Obviously, we're prioritizing face-to-face for K-12, but again, worst case, they're trying to say we certainly need to prioritize that for our K-5 students. The district PSA assures that instruction will be delivered as described in this plan and reconfirmed by the district PSA board. The description of instructional delivery in the plan matches the delivery of instruction to be delivered during the 2021 school year. Reconfirm how instruction will be delivered during the 21 school year 30 days after the ISD approval of the plan. So that'll happen at our October meeting, and every 30 days thereafter at a meeting of the board. And we are to solicit public comment from parents or legal guardians of the pupils enrolled in the district during a public meeting described in PA 149. So our community will have a chance to to weigh in on what those things look like. The last probably important assurance is that the district will ensure that two-way interactions occur between a pupil enrolled in the district and the pupil's teacher, or at least one of the pupil's teachers during each week of the school year for at least 75% of the pupils enrolled in the district. The district will publicly announce its weekly interaction rates at each board meeting where it reconfirms how instruction is being delivered. The district will make those rates available through the transparency reporting link located on the district website each month for the 20 to 21 school year. So we are to track attendance for at least 75% of our pupils, including those two-way interactions between teachers and students. That is an update or review of what that extended COVID-19 learning plan looks like as we move forward into October. A couple other brief updates, if there's no questions there. A projects update. As you know, we approved a project for our door security back in April. That project, due to COVID in some other circumstances, has been delayed. I got an update on a timeline today. The majority of the aluminum storefronts won't be here until the first week of November. So hardware for those storefronts will be in late October. So we're kind of up against winter at that point. They still intend to put those in. GEI, who's operating as our architect engineering firm, has made recommendations on different sealants, those the type of things that are going to be more weather permissible. What they would have used for the cement mixture and some of the caulk and some of those things in the summer months that were originally prescribed are going to have to change for those doors to be put in November. Currently, they are putting in the steel doors and the steel door hardware that we ordered for those units. So those started to go in after hours at the high school last week. They'll continue to go in around the district, again, on weekends after school hours in most of our other buildings as we wait for those aluminum storefronts. So that's just kind of a brief update on the projects and where we're at. That was about an $800,000 project. It involves Avigilon security. The district will become essentially all key card, fob, swipe card, whatever you want to call it. And then all these doors, both the steel doors and aluminum doors, and our current aluminum storefronts that are being retrofitted will all be censored. So we'll have alarms that will be able to go off if someone were to prop a door or something like that. And again, all those doors will be able to be programmed on when they're open, when they're closed for the public, and certainly for school use. The last brief update I have for you is preliminary enrollment. This is not coming from the numbers lady, Deb Berry. So there should be a lot of question marks. She's been busy with negotiations and crunching all kinds of numbers. So I said, I can figure this out. So I say that because there'll probably be a great deal of error between what you hear from me today and what you get in October after count day.
So you're making these numbers up, is what you're telling us?
I'm just making them up. Best case scenario, what I was able to come up with at the end of last week was that we would have an enrollment, FTE enrollment of 3177, which is 50 below projections. I say best case is because when I get the numbers from the building principals, they're just doing a head count. This isn't partial FTE students who, again, maybe they homeschool, maybe they come for 1 or 2 hours a day. They're just giving me a head count on what that looks like. I was able to kind of factor in the FTE for some of our partials, like maybe our ECSE student or some of those half-day programs that we have. But it looks like a best case scenario of about 3177, which is down about 50 students. I just had a superintendent meeting on Friday, and I think considering where everybody in the area is, not one school was up in enrollment. Everybody was down in enrollment. This kind of falls in line with maybe even a little bit better than what some of the other schools are seeing as far as a little bit of that drop off in enrollment. So we'll get the actual number at our October board meeting.
I just had one question. Your email about Superior Hills said teachers are gonna 2 days and then back to work. Does that mean we're not quarantined till the 29th or what?
The building itself was never quarantined. Individuals within that building have been quarantined by the Marquette County Health Department, but not the building as a whole.
Okay, so the students are still not returning to the building until the 29th.
Correct. I think it's probably important. I'll put that out now. A lot of the information obviously is FERPA and HIPAA protected, and we've seen emails and questions and concerns come from parents and families on both sides of the issue. Some that maybe weigh in and would like us to be a little bit more cautious. Some that think we're being too cautious and we should have the kids maybe back immediately. This decision was made as this extended COVID-19 learning plan calls for, in conjunction with the Marquette County Health Department. They're the ones that actually have the information. They share with us what they're able to share with us. Again, as I shared, and I will just say this, a lot of that decision was in large part due to some staffing issues we were going to realize because of some folks that were cautiously being quarantined moving forward. So yes, Mr. Randall, we would still be on tap to reopen Superior Hills starting September 30th.
Thank you.
So Bill, I mean, those are awfully good numbers, 3175. When is the actual count day? So we haven't had is the state doing a count day?
State is doing a count day October 2nd, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Deb Berry, first Wednesday of October. I think that's October 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. We should have that.
It's the 7th, Bill.
7th. Oh, I'm a few days off. See, don't take it. October 7th is the official district count day then, Mr. Rossway. So, and we still have 2 weeks after that in case we have absences or anything like that to still capture and count those students.
Okay. Well, good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for?
Well,
Mr.
I was just going to make the comment, with the Superior Hills issue, we knew we would have to be fluid with this going on. I think we did the right thing. I think we're doing the right thing with the other schools. We get information, we get data, we make decisions, and then we do the best we can. I know there's people on both sides of this issue that are upset that we're open at all, or some think that we should stay open no matter what and keep it going and figure it out. We're trying to thread the needle here, and I agree that was the right decision, and I think we're doing the right decision all the way around.
I agree.
Okay, very good. Anything else, Mr. Saunders, for your report?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item number 7, if I would certainly entertain a motion to include those all.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sarka, supported by Mr. Randall. I guess my only point there, and Linda did send these attachments and the personnel report. So Mr. Kurkowski for transportation, he has submitted his official retirement, which will now be official. I don't, did we hire someone? Did we post that job, Bill, for transportation director? Okay.
Yeah, so just to fill you in, Mr. Kurkowski officially resigned. I don't know if he actually retired, but he resigned early in, I believe, the 2020 school year, like maybe last January. We had posted the position, didn't really find a candidate as we were looking at that point in time. So we contracted with him, lo and behold, to really buy us a little bit more time. And when the school year got cut short, he was able to give us that time until essentially March 12th. He came back for us to help wrap up the end of the school year. And then we contracted with him again to start August 3rd to get our schedules up and going for the beginning of this year. We had kind of postponed, but we had interviewed for this position again last spring after we had posted it a second time, and we hired one of those candidates to fill that position.
Okay, so they're now working, or they're
in the candidate. Yeah, we can talk freely about that. That's Jim Yates. I hired Jim Yates, who is a former school bus driver. Jim went back to school, got his master's degree, and I believe maybe public administration. I don't know if that was Mr. Cherry or not. I think that's what his degree was in. He ended up going and worked for Marisa for at least the last year, maybe 2 years, working on some grants and some CTE programs and other things like that. So we were able to bring him back in with certainly driver experience and now some administrative experience as well. So I think he's going to be an outstanding fit for us.
okay, good. I'm glad to know that you're no longer kind of handling that. I know you've had a lot on your plate and taken that on. I'm glad that we did move forward with that.
Have you seen all the dents in my truck? I don't think you want me driving a bus. So that's where Deb drew the line. I wasn't allowed to be in charge of transportation.
Okay, so we do have a motion and support for the consent agenda. Do we have any other discussion on any of those items? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Linda, roll call vote.
Rich Rossway,
Yes.
James Randall,
Yes.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Yes.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Yes.
James Hewitt,
Yes.
Glenn Sarka,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on, board committee reports. This is item 8. We have executive, which is really the action item in 9, but I guess I'll call on you, Mr. Randall, since you ran the meeting, if you want to report on the executive meeting of September the 10th.
It was short and sweet. We reviewed 3 candidates to replace Mr. Glendon's seat, and we made a decision to recommend Michael Kohler to the board. And that was the end of the meeting.
That's the kind of committee meetings reports I like to hear. So now we will move on to item 9, and that's to consider adoption. And we do have a resolution that was sent. I don't know if we have to actually read verbatim that resolution or not, Linda, to appoint Mike Kohler to fill the remainder of that board seats.
I think we just need a nomination to consider adoption of the resolution,
Okay.
appointing him.
Having replaced Mike on the board when he stepped down, I would make that nomination.
Support.
Keep it a circle, tight circle.
Yeah, the nice symmetry there.
Come full circle.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Sarka and supported by Dr. Cherry to support the resolution to appoint Mr. Kohler. Any discussion? I guess my only comment is, we did have three people that applied. We were very happy with the folks that applied. They asked to remain anonymous, but we're very happy that because of the unique nature of this seat only being a couple of months and ending at the end of December, that we're able to appoint someone that's going to be able to take over and does have the experience, not to have to go and learn through the whole process of being a board member. So really happy for everyone that stepped forward and happy to welcome Mike back to the team. So with a motion and support, if there's no more discussion, we'll do a roll call vote on the resolution. Linda?
Rich Rossway,
Yes.
James Randall,
Yes.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Yes.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Yes.
James Hewitt,
Yes.
Glenn Sarka.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. So congratulations, Mr. Kohler, and Mr. Saunders, I'm assuming you'll be contacting him.
Yes, we'll bring in Mr. Kohler to swear him in, and he'll be an active participant from this point or from that point forward. So we hope to have that done tomorrow.
Excellent. We'll move on to item 9B. We do have an opening on the City Local Development Finance Authority. So we need to appoint someone. My term has expired. I think the real reason is because it's called a smart zone, and nobody really thought it was really good for me to be on any board that had the word smart zone on it. That was a unanimous decision of the board. So I would welcome a nomination.
I will nominate James Hewitt for the LDFA.
And we will need support of that.
I'll support that.
Okay, moved by Dr. Cherry, supported by Mr. Randall. Any discussion on that? I do believe I did inform Gary Simpson with the City of Marquette. So this board kind of manages those TIP monies, and the Board of Education, just like I believe Northern Michigan University and a few other entities, we do get 2 appointments to that board. So Mr. Cherry is on the board, and I had previously been on the board. So this will just be replacing me, and this will actually be a board appointment as it relates to that structure for the LDFA. So if there is no more discussion, we will call the question with a roll call vote. Linda?
Rich Rossway,
Yes.
James Randall,
Yes.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Yes.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Yes.
James Hewitt.
I vote for myself, yes. Yeah.
Yes, you can. Glenn Sarka.
Yes.
It would have been fun to have a 5-to-1 vote with you vote no, though, Jim.
I thought about abstaining, but
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, Jim. And you'll be hearing, I did let Gary Simpson know, so they'll be reaching out to you. Their quarterly meetings, they've been on Zoom calls so far, so not a great deal of time put into it, but I appreciate you stepping up and accepting that appointment.
yeah, no problem. I appreciate the thought and look forward to it.
Under item 10, we have gifts and bequests. We have a donation from the Rotary Club of Marquette and the Rotary Club West of Marquette for $5,000 for Mass. So we thank those 2 Rotaries for that. And also a donation of 172 Mass from Beth Milner Jewelry. So we appreciate the generosity of these organizations. Moving on to comments from the public. Linda, do we have anybody?
Yes, we do. I'm going to admit Katie, and she would like to comment. So I'm going to admit her now.
Okay.
Katie, you should be admitted.
And if Katie could just give us your name and then just a reminder that public comments are 5 minutes, and if Deb Barry would just keep an eye on the timing of that.
You have to unmute, Katie.
Okay, I see Kate. Yeah, you're on mute right now, Katie. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, okay, my name is Katie Turner. I'm specifically speaking on the Superior Hills closure. Just want to start with a little background about myself. I do a second grader at Superior Hills. I have 2 other kids who are not yet school age. I am a pharmacist. I did attend the public school systems in Marquette myself. I'm very proud of that education. And then I went on to get my doctorate. My husband is also in the healthcare industry. He is a physician who specialized in anesthesiology and critical care. He does work in the intensive care unit at the hospital. He does care for some COVID-19 patients. So just given our professions, I just want to just really state that in our jobs, we spend a lot of time making decisions based on scientific literature, and we read and interpret that literature, and we're well versed in the information on COVID-19. I just want to state that I very strongly disagree with the shutdown of Superior Hills, given all that I know about COVID-19. I know this is not just going to you. I want to express this to the health department as well, and whoever else is making these decisions. I feel it's important to make your decisions based on a very wide angle lens, not just looking at one narrow fact about COVID-19 and its spread. And really, most importantly, first, so I don't run out of time, I want to highlight that the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that kids are in school in-person learning, and specifically a pediatric infectious disease specialist in the Journal of Pediatrics states, and he's an editor, has been for years, his state is, I quote, "More than 6 months into this pandemic, accumulating evidence and collective experience argue that children, particularly school-age children, are far less important drivers of the spread and transmission. Therefore, serious consideration should be paid towards strategies that allow schools to remain open even during periods of COVID-19 spread." I thought we had those strategies in place with the masking, the social distancing. I feel the adults in that are positive should, they're adults. They should know they have to social distance and be masked. That was all laid out for us that we went through before sending our kids to school. Next, I want to highlight that you seem to be doing this to protect people, but there are a lot of negative consequences to this. We are a fairly small community, so the shutdown of one school has a very big impact. If parents are scrambling and can't go to work, I know personally working at the hospital, if we have one less pharmacist, patient care will be affected. Just extrapolate to that, nurses, physicians, cleaning crew, everyone, they're all affected, care gets affected, not to mention all the other businesses in the community. And then next, going towards the spread of the disease, if we are now shutting down school, people still have to go to work. So you're now expanding everybody's circle. We now have grandparents. Personally, I now have grandparents involved, babysitters, extra daycare people that I wouldn't normally have had now being exposed to my child, which I know is recommended by the CDC that we keep our circles small, not large. Just facts about life. It's very important that kids maintain structure for their health and their learning, which is most important at school. More people have died of suicide in August than of COVID-19. So just my kid alone came home and cried, and that's just kind of one sign we're really messing with their psyche, and they're going to have a hard time learning when that's going on. And I have a pretty good home. So this isn't a home with abuse and alcoholism. Those homes, those kids definitely need to be in school 100%. And then the reality of this virtual learning that we're supposed to be doing, the reality is that mom and dad have to be at work to pay taxes, to pay for the salaries of these teachers. And when mom and dad work, a K through 5th grader cannot be at home learning. They're not capable of navigating that themselves. So I'm just pleading that whoever's making these recommendations, just keep this all in mind and keep the schools open as much as possible, or advise our adults to not be, if this were because they were eating in a lunchroom, unmasked, or staff lunchroom, if we're keeping our kids all apart, then the adults need to be apart so that we can stay open. And I just plead you give me the choice. I evaluate risks in my life, in my kid's life every day. If I want to send my kid to school, I should be allowed to do that. That's what my tax dollars are going towards. They will follow the guidelines of the 6 feet and maskless. I just don't understand, because at the hospital and every other institution I'm aware of, unless you were within 6 feet and maskless for greater than 15 minutes, you should not have to change your life. You should just have to monitor your symptoms. I thought we had that in place, so I don't understand why we're even in this position. And you said it's a staffing issue on your end. I understand that. I deal with staffing issues at my job every day. We are not allowed to shut down just because of a staffing issue. We just have to move forward and be flexible and change things around. If kids aren't going to school, people can't go to work. And if they can't, or they're expanding their circle, which we know is a negative. And we pay taxes, we go to work to fund the salaries of our kids' teachers so they can go to school.
Katie,
And I guess I'm just left with the question, if this is the press. Over 5 minutes, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, we're fairly flexible here, but if you could just wrap it up. I believe we all did receive your email.
Just then the question, if this is the president, is this going to keep happening?
Okay, well, I appreciate your input, Katie, and we did receive your email, and I certainly read it, and
yes.
As the rest of the
so I
board
just wanted to say.
Oh.
Thumbs up.
Okay. Well, we had our 5 minutes there, and I think she timed out. So do we have anybody else, Linda?
There is nobody else in the waiting room.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. All right. We'll move on to board member comments, and I'll just open this up to any board members that want to make any comments. Nobody? Okay.
I guess I would just say that I think we're doing everything we can possibly do with the COVID issue. As far as the hospital is concerned, my wife works there, and they've been told that if any one of them ends up with COVID in her department, then the whole department shuts down. So I'm not sure where all the information is coming from, but we do take our lead from the health department. So I think we're doing the right thing.
And I would just add, I think it's important when we look at liability and, that impact or the impact that could have on the district, that it's important to, have a community standard and rely on the health department in making those decisions. I think that's safe. That's a fiscally prudent way to go. It also, with competing opinions by parents, I think it's also, a fair arbitrator of those those competing opinions. So I would ask that we continue to rely on the health department for guidance in those cases.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I have a kid at Superior Hills who's a 5th grader, and it was not easy to have to transition from being in person to being online. And we got the call from the health department that my son was considered to be a close contact of someone that tested positive. So he has to quarantine for 2 weeks. So, we're definitely doing the best that we can. It's not easy at all, but we're just trying to work our way through it too.
Yeah, I totally appreciate where she's coming from, and appreciate the input.
Okay, any other comments? All right, board president comments. I thought I would start with like a history of me and maybe my first 8 years of my life and just kind of go over, my background and where I grew up and some of my experience. Wait, am I being muted? Linda's muting me. I'm just joking.
I make the motion that we recess.
Hi. I have no comments. Our announcements and other meetings, our next board meeting will be at 5:30. So Mr. Sarka, we were listening to you. October the 19th, and that will also be scheduled at this time electronically. And item 15, this is, go ahead, Mr. Cherry.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Support.
Yes.
Moved by Mr. Cherry, Dr. Cherry, supported by Mr. Hewitt. And I think we'll do a roll call on this too then, Linda?
And Rich Rossway,
Yes.
James Randall,
Yes.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Yes.
Dr. Brian Cherry,
Yes.
James Hewitt,
Yes.
Len Sarka,
Yes, and thank you to the superintendent for the G.I. Joe beard.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks everyone for joining, and
Thank you all.
see you on October 19th. All right.